We hear a lot about today this voice, that we need an Indigenous voice to represent Indigenous people. One of the problems with that is just what do we mean by represent, and how would they represent that?
A voice to Parliament will damage equality. It'll divide Australia. It'll divide us on the basis of race. We don't want that.
It is creating a separate entity. We're not a separate entity. We should be considered Australian citizens and part of the fabric of this nation.
And as Australians, first and foremost, we all want to be Australians. We don't want to be dividing our country on the basis of race.
I'm a Queensland senator. I don't want Indigenous Queenslanders being separated from non-Indigenous Queenslanders on the basis of their race and who they can vote for and where they can vote on the basis of a special chamber or a special voice. We're all equal, we're all the same. This is just nuts.
There's diversity in the Indigenous population just as there is in the non-Indigenous population.
And therefore, the idea of the voice, for many Indigenous people that I know, is actually detrimental and entrenching further the fact that we're being considered as one voice and our individual rights are not being recognised.
We should look at proposals that unite Australians, not the proposals that divide Australians. The 1967 referendum was about uniting Australians.
What it did is it took race out of the Constitution, and that's something that advances equality because it means that we're all Australians first and foremost.
One of the problems with, or one of the dangers with a lot of the movements we see, constitutional recognition, the voice, etc., is that it reinforces the existing us-them mentality. And I think it's pretty clear the us-them mentality is not working, it cannot work.
So rather than actually elevating Indigenous voices, you diminish them because you say they're only allowed to play a certain prescribed role in the Australian democracy. And that's something that first of all is patronising, but second of all it's a form of political segregation which is really damaging.
I firmly believe that the idea of having a constitutionally enshrined voice to Parliament is telling us that there are those that believe that we are forever going to be disadvantaged.
A voice to Parliament will not fix youth suicide in Indigenous communities. It will not fix the infant mortality rate. It will not fix unemployment.
We need to tackle the tough issues, education, health, employment. Unfortunately, that gets sidelined or hijacked by the virtue signallers, the blacktivists, the culture vultures.
So instead of having a voice to Parliament, instead of having debates around recognition and finding the next fad, changing the date of Australia Day and all of those things, we should be focusing on acting on the critical issues that we're faced with right now.